Szanowni Państwo, udało się. Ta konferencja była organizowana w warunkach dość partyzanckich, i jako organizator i prezes Fundacji Nowe Drzewo Życia mogę powiedzieć, że to wymagało pewnej wprawy z poprzednich lat. Wszystkie moje wnioski o dofinansowanie tej konferencji zostały odrzucone, dlatego nie ma potrzeby dziękować żadnym sponsorom, może to jest pewna ulga. Natomiast bardzo się cieszę, że jednak udało się ją zorganizować i trudności pojawiły się dopiero na końcu. Jeden być może wyglądał poważniej, ale się okazało, że się samo rozwiązało. Drugi z podłączeniem się do streamingu to zajęło trochę więcej czasu, ale dzięki inteligencji Roya Sylwanusa, który w ogóle tutaj obiecał, że pomoże, jak się dowiedział, że konferencja jest, że tak powiem, organizowana wolontariacko, powiedział, że okej, on wszystko zrobi, a on wszystko potrafi. Więc dzięki temu mamy również transmisję. Państwo na pewno już macie dostęp do linka. Tam, Panie Konradzie, link jest do transmisji, transmisja jest. Czy Pan potrzebuje, czy Pan... nie wiem, jak to się robi,
A to jest na jakim Facebooku, na jakim profilu?
Konferencja Afrykańska.
Tak, jest profil, tak?
Tak, na Facebooku. Jest osobny profil. Bardzo się cieszę również, że mamy okazję.
Nie zostało wstawione. Tam nie ma tego linku.
Jak nie ma, jak mi Roy przekazał komórkę z linkiem.
Nie został tak wstawiony. Tak.
Jeszcze? Tak. To jeszcze będziemy. To za moment, bo tu jest kopiowanie.
Spokojnie otwieranie.
Dobrze. Bardzo się cieszę, że możemy rozmawiać o kolejnych sprawach związanych z Afryką, olbrzymim kontynentem, który niewątpliwie wymaga dużej uwagi. Tym większej, że tak jak wszyscy wiemy, problemy Afryki idą do Europy, płyną w przeciekających łodziach, w różnych próbach przekroczenia granicy i jakby sytuacja ta wymaga poznania tematu, głębokiej analizy, zastanowienia się, ale przede wszystkim poznania Afryki takiej, jaką ona jest, a nie taką, jak sobie ją wyobrażamy. Bo to nie prowadzi do dobrych rozwiązań. Proszę Państwa, bardzo się cieszę, ponieważ na tej konferencji zostanie też przedstawiony, tak jak na poprzedniej została bardziej szczegółowo przedstawiona Kenia, jako jeden z krajów Afryki. W tym roku będziemy prezentować Kamerun. Kraj wyjątkowo bliski Polakom, a przynajmniej powinien być, ponieważ pierwsza i chyba największa ekspedycja naukowa, jaka została wysłana do Afryki, była właśnie polską, znaczy zorganizowała się i pojechała do Afryki. To była polska ekspedycja, 3-osobowa, bez armat, bez armii, bez jednym statkiem, grupa szaleńców, która postanowiła na mapie Afryki wypełnić istniejące tam białe plamy. Akurat dotarli do Kamerunu, zaprzyjaźnili się z ludźmi, których tam spotkali, zdobyli ich uznanie i szacunek i do tej pory w Kamerunie uczy się o nich w szkołach, u nas nie. Także warto to przypomnieć, jest publikacja nasza, ponieważ fundacja w zeszłym roku podjęła się czegoś nieprawdopodobnego, a jednak się udało, czyli sprowadzenia do Polski szczątków doczesnych Stefana Szolca-Rogozińskiego, który był inicjatorem tej wyprawy, zrealizował ją i po prostu no, jakby był liderem tej grupy Polaków. Został pochowany ponownie w Kaliszu. Polecam, bo Kalisz jest pięknym miastem. Ten grobowiec rodzinny jest też przepiękny i w ogóle piękny klimat. Dziękuję Państwu za przybycie i zapraszam do rozpoczęcia pierwszej części poświęconej Kamerunowi. Czy mogę prosić? A, jeszcze chwilę, tak? Dobrze, jeszcze trwa przekazywanie linków do transmisji online. Jeżeli jeszcze, znaczy mogłabym uzupełnić jako organizator, że powiem tak, corocznie też mieliśmy pieniądze na publikację pokonferencyjną, ponieważ pieniądze się nie pojawiły, ale ja mam nadzieję, że to się uda zrobić. Proszę wszystkich, którzy wystąpią, o jednak przygotowanie wersji swojego referatu do druku. My po prostu będziemy szukać pieniędzy na wydanie tego. Jeżeli nie uda się tego wydać jako efektu konferencji szóstej, po szóstej konferencji, myślę, znaczy mam nadzieję, że przyszły rok pozwoli nam, jeżeli będziemy robić siódmą, wtedy się wyda tom piąty i szósty razem. Także żeby te referaty nie przepadły. Poza tym Roy, jak usłyszał w tym roku, że jesteśmy, znaczy, że nie pojawiły się żadne pieniądze, powiedział, co to za problem. Zróbmy tę konferencję jako rodzaj targu sztuki kultury afrykańskiej. I myślę, że to też jest niezły pomysł i wtedy po prostu byłoby to częściowo samofinansujące się i konferencja jako konferencja nie zależałaby od darczyńców humorzastych czasem. Także z tym, że na to na przygotowanie czegoś takiego trzeba było trochę więcej czasu i spróbujemy sobie ten czas zapewnić. Roy, I say about another, o innej formule. Dobra, tłumacz.
Dobrze.
Konferencji. Już wszyscy się podzielili. Like a market. Okej, czy wszyscy się już podzielili linkami?
Okay. Hello again. My name is Roy, and I'm from Kenya. I've been a kind of family to this organization for some time now, almost 2 years. And our proposition for the next coming conferences is to kind of promote African products here in terms of encouraging people who are maybe clothes from Africa, ornaments, things that everyone would want to see.
Maybe some movies.
Yeah.
I to by było takie, żeby Polacy mogli zobaczyć więcej Afryki. A przy okazji wystąpienia naukowe. Takie połączenie. Kiedyś pani doktor Malwina Bakalarska powiedziała, jak jechała na pierwszą tę konferencję, że to jest niemożliwe. Mówi, co pani ma tutaj ma? Pani ma tutaj polityków, pani ma tutaj biznes, pani ma teoretyków i organizacje pozarządowe, czyli praktyków. Tego się nie da połączyć, to jest niespójne. A jak wyjeżdżała z tej konferencji, powiedziała, proszę pani, to miało sens. Także myślę, że jednak jakby współistnienie różnych wątków na różnych poziomach jakby teorii i z różnorodnością tematów bardzo się przyczynia do tego, że coś może być popularne i ludzie chcą to oglądać. A przecież o to chodzi. Znaczy nie chodzi o to, żeby mówić sami do siebie. Bardzo proszę osoby, które zgłosiły się do pierwszego panelu. Pan dr Konrad Czernichowski, UMCS, człowiek, który przeszedł na piechotę przez całą Afrykę. Nie na piechotę, ale przez połowę Afryki i dość często pracuje na uczelniach afrykańskich. Na jednej? No proszę. I czy mogę poprosić też pana Hansa Erbota i panią Janine Foyet. Proszę. Jeszcze jedno krzesło. Proszę, nie, ja i pan Hans Ebot. Bardzo się cieszę, że o Kamerunie będzie mówić dwóch Kameruńczyków i polski naukowiec, który Kamerun zna od podszewki, tak?
Nie.
Dobrze. Panie Konradzie, to ja jeszcze się wtrącę. Zarządzanie. Kto z Państwa będzie mówił pierwszy?
Proszę pana organizatorów.
A, ja myślałam, że Pan tu mnie troszeczkę, bo może poprosimy Panią uczennicę.
Nie rozumiem po polsku.
Would you like to start?
Nie? I think that you are very brave. Yes.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I say with English. You like to share a little bit for you.
Or you can comment.
Okay, is it going to work? You can discussion.
Okay, I will.
Yes, so that this is technical, so it's okay. You don't change your system.
We use this.
This computer should not change because it may change the code. So you have to download it.
Ah, okay.
just say yes, so that we just without the line. So you should have for liquidity. So you were supposed to just put it on the line and go to the last one. I'm sorry. Let's do it. PG direction.
Czy jest jakiś problem?
Kopiujemy właśnie prezentację
O,
Hansa
okej.
na pulpit i już zaczynamy. Więc presentation 6.
Yes, presentation 6. Yes, show me some kindness, some snapshots. Show me some kindness. Okay, that's fine. This news presentation. Was that going to be a microphone? Okay. Can you slide it and then and is there not remote control system? Let's change this slide.
Czy mamy może to
The key to change the slide.
I don't have, probably you have to use this flash.
Natural way. So each time it has to be. Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Hans and I am very happy to meet with you. This is the second time. We were here last October. Last time it was trying to talk about African potentials, for us to bring out African potentials. But this week, or today, I decided to try something different about Cameroon, since the topic was our group was for Cameroon. So I decided to talk about the Cameroon cities towards economic development. I am a PhD candidate with the University of Silesia, and my research is always going close to economic development. So most of the times when I have to discuss with friends in conferences, if you say let's discuss everything, you see it goes well and it's going to economic development. And so because we talked about this conference of today, I decided to talk about the cities of Cameroon and how these cities, they are impacting economic development. If you noticed, we have lots of cities in Africa and of course in the world, but these cities, they are very frequently not looked upon their role in which they play when it comes to economic development. And so I decided to treat this topic. Last time we were lucky to have the remote control so I can control it by myself, but this time around, maybe my friend, I don't know, you use your intuition, after some time you just have to click it up so that we keep on moving. So I would like to say that what is only to be to say a city? Generally, economic development is, we have put economic development in two aspects: economic development in Africa, economic development in Europe, and even economic development in the world. It has always been two aspects: a responsibility, one from the government, then responsibility from the people. So these two people, they bring about economic development. If we have a wrong leadership that doesn't patronize economic development, we will not get economic development. irrespective if you have a willing population. But again, you can have a willing population and then you have a wrong leadership, or vice versa. And so before, these two groups are in charge of ensuring that a particular society, a state, or a country is actually developed. It happened in many countries before. But this time around, we begin to try to find out about the contribution of cities, contribution of towns, contribution of regions. Because when we try to say the GDP of Poland is this, the GDP of this country is this, we try to find out but which are the parameters which we get into this GDP. And in this case, we decided to look at the relationship between cities and how it even gets to GDP. And so we talked about the Cameroon city. So this time around, we look at the city. What is a city? A city is simply a government, but this time around, a local government. Local government administration. They are in charge of providing welfare, economic growth within a particular town, within a particular city, or in French they say within a particular ville. But very frequently, a lot of people, they get a lot of confusion if these cities fall directly under the government or they are an autonomous body. Is a city answerable to the government of a country, or this city is an autonomous body? But if this city is an autonomous body, where does its powers end? What can it do? When does it take responsibility? And what is the nature of city governance? So these are the things which we are going to be able to understand, especially in the context of Africa and particularly Cameroon. We will look at a few Cameroonian cities, the capital of Yaoundé, the capital of Douala. Of course, we also have some other rising cities like Limbe and Kribi. We will look at a few of those cities, and then we will try to figure out what the role they have been playing in terms of economic growth and how this has even impacted people. So, yes, we have to understand that all the cities of the world are not the same. You have big cities like Washington, D.C., like New York, like the city of Tokyo. These are all big cities. And of course, I mentioned even we will get to see the old city of Poland. You have the Krakow Center. These are old cities. And so you can't compare a city like Tokyo with a small city like Kigali. They are all cities, yes, but they have different potentials. And these potentials can be measured with the way in which they bring in economic development, in terms of security, in terms of smartness, in terms of defense, in every parameters. What are the roles in which this city? So you realize that what Washington D.C. is doing in the city or in the U.S. is not the same activity which a city in Cameroon maybe is doing. So we call those cities of this time, I will call them smart cities. And then we also have, of course, we have historic cities. Then, of course, we have the cities of the Global South. The cities of the Global South, of course, most of the African cities are found in the cities of the Global South. You have the cities, maybe cities in Indonesia, cities in the poor countries or the developed countries. They are very frequently look at the cities of the Global South. But again, I have a question. Does it necessarily mean if a city is as old, does it actually mean the city is productive? The city of Katowice is a city of Katowice, an old city, but does it make it a smart city? If a city is old, does it become smart? So we are trying to revitalize cities, to ameliorate cities, to make sure that cities are beginning to give different, even though they are old cities, old structures, old houses, old institutions, old roads, old railway lines, old transport infrastructures. But how can we transform historic cities into smart cities? And again, if historic cities are actually being planned and planted, is it actually possible to transform these cities from historic to new cities? Let's look at examples. The city of Beijing is very different from the city of let's say the city of Jordan, Jericho. Jericho is a very old city, right long to the day of creation. But you can't compare the city of Beijing and the city of Jericho. Why? Because the city of Beijing is a smart city. It got modern infrastructures, it got modern railway lines, it got modern digital technology, and it's a green city. While Jericho, although it is old, is still having a lot of challenges, poor infrastructure, which means a city can be a very old city, maybe like Krakow, but it will not be as digital, may not be as smart as the city of Warsaw, for example. And so we have many of those cities in Africa, in Cameroon, where we call them cities of the global south. These are, and has to be over there because the cities of global south will have to compete with the cities of smart cities. And this is how it goes. This is how it goes. Or this is how it goes. It doesn't go like this. Because these cities of the global south, they have the same situation, the same problems, the same challenges, the same limitations. And so a city like Katowice does not have much cooperation to cooperate with the city of Krakow. But again, the city of Krakow can compete with the city of Kigali. They can compete with the city of Nairobi because what Nairobi doesn't have, the city of Krakow have, and they can actually exchange. So these cooperation, these activities, whether it is cities within a particular country or whether it is cities, activities out of the country, it brings in economic development, it brings in economic cooperation, and it brings in, of course, prosperity. So we look at, one more time, we look at the role of a city. Before I try to open your mind to discuss the aspects of what is the role of the city, I would like us to look at the role of a city from two different perspectives. The first is governance. Then the second is authority. The way the government system operates, it is very difficult for administration to move from the top and come to implement issues in a city or in a town, in a particular area. So the government disseminates its responsibility. We call it local government administration. It disseminates its authority, the responsibility to the local administrators. The local administrators, they are the team leaders. They are the workers in a particular town who make sure that these public services and public goods, they are properly being distributed. And so I try to look at back. Next. Okay. So I was trying to look at what is city all about. So city all about is about the first I said governance. Now through the local government, the city creates its own structure. It creates its own institutions. And then from its own structures and institutions, it is able or capable of managing and monitoring the way the activities are being carried out in a particular area, in a city, in a particular area, in a town, and then they gather the information, including data, and then they send it to the hierarchy. The hierarchy may be the government, the hierarchy may be the head of state, of course, or the central system. And then another aspect of a city in terms of governance, which is very important, is in the days of democracy, we are trying to to decentralize activities where everything does not remain with the executive. And so the city system comes in this, where governance is being transferred. Some power and authority is transferred to the city administrators who ensure that the services are being provided, public goods are being provided in all of the areas. So in the case of Cameroon, we'll be looking about the Cameroon main cities. I'll tell you about the cities of Kribi. This is it below. The city of Douala, that is it over there. And 5-1-0, 3-55, and then 5-3-0. These are the ways in which I try to make you understand the differentiations of our cities. Now, these particular cities, they are very notable because we have the port. This is the route to, okay, try to take it back and front, let's say something. Then you come back to front, will be like this. Good. We have, this is where you have Kribi. We will go back to the other slide. And then this is how where you have Douala. Then you have Yaoundé here. Then go back. Behind. So this port, Douala is around here. I showed you, and then this is Libe. But the ports are different because this port is a deep sea port. And when we have huge containers coming from abroad, from Europe, from the US, they use these two ports. They're supposed to use these two ports. But these two ports, because they are deep, so they are 5-5. But 3, this port is being used, Douala port is being used. This one is 5, is not being used. And so you can use this. This one is frequently used. Douala is frequently used. Yet, it is not a deep sea port. So every time, it has to go through some rearrangement, some exercises, some technical work for it to be able to anchor heavy ships from abroad. And so these are the qualities of our port. 3:0:5, and then 3:55 and 5:10. So these main routes to our country, they happen to assist all the other countries which are closer to Africa. Like if you see above, you see Nigeria, but before you get to Nigeria, we have this country here, Central African Republic. They pay a lot of good taxes to the port in Kribi and the port in Douala. They pay a lot of money because they transport all of their export through these two seaports. They are a landlocked country. The same goes with a country like Chad, where you have on the north there you have N'Djamena. That is Chad. Chad has to go through all this long rail to come and transport his export into this through the Douala seaport. And so our cities, the Douala city, the Kribi, they play a lot of role in terms of local development. It may have its own challenges, but through these activities, through the port system, we happen to achieve economic growth. Next. Yes. And so we have this now. So now we try to look at another dimension. How do we prove this? How can we say that Kribi is contributing to the GDP of Africa, of Cameroon? How can we say maybe Douala is contributing in the GDP of Cameroon? We can say this by through seeing that the GDP of Cameroon is from what you see above. This is the GDP of Cameroon, and then you see the purchasing power parity in terms of it. But in all of this information, the Douala city provides almost half of it. The Douala city is actually the birth of the economic life of Cameroon. It produced everything. And then from there now, we have now this GDP. But recently, a different study showed that the city of Douala, Yaoundé, has increased its productivity, and the city of Yaoundé produced 15% increase than the city of than before anyway. Not the city of Douala. The city of Douala is always having high, and the city of Yaoundé produced more this time around than before. And the Kribi also is another rising city, which is creating employment, and is through the seaport is creating huge advantages for the population. And so now we'll look at one more thing again. Yes, next. Yes, this is still all about the GDP rates. And then we will look at the role of Cameroonian cities. So the role of Cameroonian cities, as I said, is a local government structure, and it coordinates small and medium-sized enterprises and initiatives, and it also provides clean water provisions, and it creates very importantly, it creates urban order. An urban order is a situation where the government doesn't come to ensure that there is security, there's protection of life and properties, but the city council government or governance ensure that there is a provision of public goods, and the protection of security, life and properties are protected. So then we look at one last thing, the relationships and the interactions. How does cities interact? We may not see it, but cities interact in many, very many ways. And it also depends on the capacities of the city. The interaction of a city like the city of New York has different interaction completely with the city of maybe the city of Bangui. The interactions are different. The city of Berlin has a complete different interaction with the city of Seoul in Korea. So cities can interact with states. Cities can interact with states, and cities can interact with international organizations, and cities can interact also with cities. And what are the situations where cities can interact with cities? Can we say a city of Cameroon can interact with a state in Poland? It's possible, and it's not also possible. It depends on the activity of the interactions, because the sole law of sovereignty, the law of sovereignty ensures that there is a chain of activity which a particular government structure can handle. And if the activity which a city may want to collaborate with another state out of the national territory is not in line with that particular it's not in line with a particular activity, then it will not be something we should encourage. For example, the city of Yaoundé cannot collaborate with the city of Poland to supply arms. It's not accepted. It's not going to be accepted. Because when it does that, it means the city governance is taking upon itself the sovereignty and the autonomy to be the head of state, to be the overall decision maker, which is not supposed to be like that. So cities can collaborate with cities in the area of maybe unemployment, economic growth, businesses, green energy, and all of this, water supply, and the distribution of services, just that. And you also can have cooperation between cities and international organizations, of course. My city can invite this NGO to come and do some teaching in my country, and we can have lots of other collaboration between training in cities and international organizations. It's not much a problem. But again, I would like to give an exception. There are cities who have the capacity to operate like states. The city of Tokyo, the city of Washington DC, the city of Paris. These cities, they have the capacity to operate as states. As states means that they can sign memorandum that represents the city and represent the state simultaneously. And so not every city falls into that level, and it also depends on the state. So those are the differences of cities and states. So, what are the limitations of Cameroonian cities? I didn't mention it there, but one of the biggest problems Cameroonian cities have is the problem of sovereignty. You know, in a different panel which we were discussing, we discussed that regional integration has a problem if member states are not democratic. If member states are democratic, then you have a democratic regional integration. You have a democratic regional bloc. But if member states are not democratic, then you have an authoritarian regional bloc. It's the same thing with city development or city governance. If our sovereignty is so strong, everything is centralized, it becomes difficult for our city government to have it easy in terms of their operations. Their operations become difficult because if they want to bring water supply, they have to ask from the government. If they want to give electricity, they have to ask from the government. If they want to sign a cooperation with a fundaja, they have to ask from the government. So it makes things very difficult. So that's one of the limitations of our cities, where because of centralization and the protection of sovereignty, they have to each time verify from the central government if they must take a particular decision. The other thing is the problem of conflicts. We have a lot of conflicts around. You have the conflict from Chad, you have the Boko Haram from Nigeria, and then you also have problems from the civil war in Central African Republic. All of these conflicts, it comes in and a lot of migration flood into Cameroon. And when it flows into Cameroon, the population becomes so much and we don't know how to handle it. And the city's government, they have never been trained on how to manage conflicts. A lot of migration coming as a result of conflict. They've not been trained. Another thing is funding capacities. We have, of course, our cities have inadequate funds. We could barely finance the flow and distribution of a clean water supply. We could hardly have that. We could also hardly carry out major aspect of green gas, green development, all of these projects which are found in smart cities. Our cities they don't have the competencies. We also have the problems of lack of training and lack of technological advancements, and through this it becomes difficult to digitalize our systems, to digitalize our railway roads, to digitalize even our fundings. It becomes very difficult. And so those are some of the problems which our cities are facing. And then we still face the problem of human capital. Of course, I talked about that. And then you have new model illiteracy, which is an aspect of training on modern city management. All of those training we do not have. And so those are some of the problems which we faced. So we also have, then we talk about the city governance. Of course, in the city governance, we have the structure. The city main collaborators are, you have the NGOs, then you have the local administrators. Sometimes we have the chiefs. The chiefs, the funds. In the case of Cameroon, of course, we have the chiefs, the funds. We also have councillors. Then we also have local administrators and traditional rulers. So those are the immediate people in which the local governments or the city administrators, they collaborate with to ensure that the city system is run effectively. And then, now, what do we talk about smart cities agenda? What program do we have for smart cities agenda? It's a very challenging thing for, not only for Cameroon, I feel like I should speak all for Africa and the global south. The idea about moving a city from a traditional city to a smart city is a very complicated and a difficult task. Last year, I was discussing with a Polish person, and I said, What do we think with the city of Katowice? Are we going to turn Katowice into a smart city? It's difficult. We can't turn Katowice into a smart city because the railway lines are old railway lines, and we have to digitalize so many things. And when it comes to garbage system, what happens in smart cities is when a garbage person comes, he selects his garbage. Those that get rotten, he put this way. Those that get this, but when we come in Polish system, they dump everything. So we've not gotten there. So, but again, we also ask a question: should we melt down the city? Should we melt it up and then come up with a fresh new city, or should we abandon Katowice somewhere and then build other new cities in some other place? What should we do? And so these are the difficulties which it is all about when it comes to moving a traditional city to a smart city. And so Africa and the global south falls within that range, where it becomes difficult to imagine. The city of Lagos, Abuja, is a fresh city that was created. It wasn't the capital originally. The capital was in Lagos. They moved it and they transferred it to Abuja, and then it was planned accurately. But I tell you the truth, because of the new development, digital technology, and all of the things, we can still say Abuja is still very limited. The city of Abuja is still very limited. It requires more additives. So the cities of Cameroon is facing a problem, and the first question is, cities are drivers of innovation. Of course, we discussed that. But what makes a city innovative? A city can be innovative based on the times, the moments, the challenges. Before I left my house to come to Łódź, I have to pay my boss with my phone. We in Africa, we do not have that. You can't pay your boss with your phone. And so the city is still traditional. So what makes the city innovative, and how can we get there? It is going to be difficult for us to agree that yes, we can give a time frame that we will get there in 5 years, we'll get there in 3 years, we'll get there in 4 years. No, I will not give that certainty. But I can tell you that city management and the management of the state, they go the same way. If the management of the state is ambitious, wants to upgrade, then the city will also upgrade. If the management of the state is not ambitious, doesn't want to upgrade, then the city will also not upgrade. Because power is being decentralized. Power is being decentralized. And most cities which we have in Africa, because we are still in a semi-democratic moment or era, where you can't really tell if your country is democratic or not. Even Rwanda, whom I praised a few minutes ago, we actually don't know where they fit. Because Paul Kagame is doing well, he's a development ruler, but we can't actually fit his own ideology of democracy. So, if that happens, then he dictates the nature of the state, then he dictates the nature of the city. And so that happens with, of course, us from Cameroon, our case seems worse anyway. And that becomes worse. And so cities, how can cities become innovative? They have to be interested in creating opportunities, manage small and medium-sized enterprises, create employment for the youth, and of course be able to engage. Through the first image that I showed you, be able to engage with multiple actors, multiple collaborators, so that if you can't, we are in an interdependent world, where if you can't do this, another person can help you to do it. The city of Tokyo can help us to digitalize. And so this is the only way we are able to reach our goals, of course. Then we also have global challenge on COP. Yes, this I mentioned before. This is the global challenge which is affecting African cities. There is also one thing I would like to say. Although the international world is talking about the climate, the weather, global COP and the protection of the ozone layer and all of this, I would like to say that these problems were originally not African-related problems. These problems were originally not the problems of the global south. And the path of development is completely different from the climate change resolutions, which is now the talk of the day. And so, if you look at what we use, how Europe developed, how the US developed, they all took part in the destruction of the climate system, the climatic system. And they destroyed the ozone layer and the COP system. It was in Africa. And China refused and said, listen, we are going to follow our method of economic development. We do not care if we destroy the climate or not, because when we want to develop, we don't even have the money to protect this, to protect that, to protect this. It is too much for us. We just want to solve the problem of poverty and solve the problem of unemployment. And that is happening in Indonesia, that is happening in Nigeria, and all of the global south countries. They think that the aspect of greenhouse emissions, global challenge of the COP, green development, these are all, they are not strategies, but they are going to be some difficult pathway for people to kick out poverty out of the various countries. And so, if you have to achieve economic development, they think, of course, you don't have to follow the protection of the environment and the ozone layer. So then we have this other one, the entire problem of conflicts. The aspect of conflict which I have spoken about, I still have to talk about it, is limiting our cities, because cities now begin to pump in a lot of money into some of these countries. And then at the end of the day, we can't actually know what we are doing. And so most of our cities can't easily separate what is terrorism, what is conflict, what is law against the state, and what is an advantage for them. They can't. Yes. So I think that the city is a very important aspect of a state, of a country. And the cities of Cameroon, which I mentioned, especially Douala, contribute a lot more to help that the state is being run effectively. All of us here, and all of us back in Africa, we cannot benefit a lot if the city is weak. And we can benefit so much if the city becomes stronger. Some cities are stronger than the state. Some cities are more powerful than the state. And so, in this presentation of today, I would like to say that our cities, especially the city of Douala, which I mentioned, has done so much to ensure that there is economic development. But we can't really get there if we don't have ambitious leadership. Thank you very much, and thanks for your kind attention.
And now, Pan Konradzie.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Ze względu na naszych gości i też prośbę organizatorów przejdę na język angielski. It's a very great honor and pleasure.
Czy ja mogę dodać jedno, również ze względu na tych oglądających nas w Lublinie, tak?
Tak, nie tylko w Lublinie, ale chcę powiedzieć, że oglądają nas studenci w Rumunii i na Słowacji, dlatego że akurat dwóch studentów wyjechało teraz na Erasmusa i prosili, żeby im udostępnić też tę wideokonferencję. W innym przypadku zapewne by sami przyjechali, dlatego że na przykład Erik studiuje stosunki międzynarodowe, interesuje się polityką i chętnie też na pewno by wziął udział, ale ponieważ jest właśnie na Słowacji, no to ogląda tutaj tę konferencję na pewno z zainteresowaniem. It is not my first time in this conference in Łódź. I participated in the conference at least twice, but because usually it is in the end of October, so I couldn't participate last year, because usually, as Madame mentioned, I also teach for one semester in Jordan University College in Tanzania, so at the time of the conference I was in Tanzania. But this time it is early enough and it enabled me to come to Łódź because I'm flying to Tanzania next week. And when I learned the topic of the conference, which is Cameroon, I was very happy because it is important for me. I visited Cameroon many years ago, 14 years ago, in 2010. It was only 1 month, but actually it was my first visit in sub-Saharan Africa, and it was very important also to developing my research interests in Africa, so it was a very important stay. And although it was only 1 month, but it was very intensive. I traveled from west to east, from south to north. It was not a research project, it was rather a humanitarian visit, yes, because I'm also involved for many years in the Catholic movement of Maitri, which will be covered also by Modest tomorrow. He has a presentation about Maitri activities in Cameroon. And Cameroon, we help the poor, the orphans in many towns, many cities, many missions, and Cameroon actually is the city where there is the highest number of Polish priests and sisters. So that's why I had to travel to many cities, as I mentioned, from south to north. So I could see different paysage, we can say. I could learn a lot about Cameroon, although I stayed in one place only for 2 or 3 days. It was very intense, but I still recall, and it's very nice to remember. I came to Łódź this time with students from UMCS. This year we celebrate 8 years, and they will also have presentations. As I mentioned, Modest will talk tomorrow about my activities in Rwanda, but also there is Irene and Sabaha from Tanzania who will talk about Cameroon, and she's international affairs student. She's taking her master's at UMCS. And myself also prepared a presentation together with our doctoral student, PhD student Innocent Nowak, who has been just admitted to doctoral school at UMCS. We prepared this paper together. He would like to be here physically very much, but for some objective reasons he could not. But he's there. He's also watching the presentations at the conference. So the topic of our presentation is Cameroon in CEMAC. CEMAC has already been mentioned by my colleague. CEMAC is one of the economic integration organizations in Africa, but actually there are 2 organizations in which Cameroon takes part of. One is ECCAS, Economic Community of Central African States, Wspólnota Gospodarcza Państw Afryki Środkowej, which consists of 11 states, and it was formed in 1983. And 6 of these 11 states, they form a more advanced organization, which has even their own currency, which is CEMAC, Communauté économique et monétaire de l'Afrique centrale, Wspólnota Gospodarcza i Monetarna Afryki Środkowej. So apart from Cameroon, there are 5 other member states. There is Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Republic of Congo, Congo-Brazzaville, Chad, and Central African Republic. And actually Cameroon has the best geographical position because it is bordering with each of these 5 other member states. It is in central, and it has great economic potential. That's why we selected this topic, because it can be interesting to see if really Cameroon benefits from its position and if it's the main economic power in itself. Next, please. So let me start with a short introduction about Cameroon. Cameroon belongs to lower middle income countries, which makes it rather in the top African economies, because there is only one country in Africa which is considered for the World Bank as the developed countries, high income country. This is a small island country called Seychelles. Even South African Republic is not considered a high income country. South African Republic, which we used to know as one of the most developed countries in Africa, it has a lower status than Seychelles. It is called upper middle income country. So it has higher status than Cameroon, but lower status than Seychelles. And there are a few countries with the same status as South African Republic, upper middle income countries, like for example Botswana and some other countries. But majority of them are low income countries and a limited number lower middle income countries. So Cameroon, compared to other African states, I would say is rather in this first half of African economies. Of course, the colonial history of Cameroon had an impact on its economy. In the 19th century, it became German colony, and at the end of the First World War, it became a protectorate of League of Nations. So it was divided between the influence of UK and France. But it became fully independent in 1960 with many African countries. 1960 is called the Year of Africa because very high number of African states became independent in this very year, 1960. The main trade partners of Cameroon are China, which was also mentioned here, but also France and the Netherlands. Yes, here you can see I was very young, 14 years ago, in a market in Yaoundé, in the capital city of Cameroon. Yes, I would like also to mention about the macro indicator of investment. We have published it in our book with my colleagues, Professor Ewa Cieślik from the University of Economics of Poznań and Professor Barandiaj from the University of Warmia and Mazury in Olsztyn. And this macro indicator of investment climate covers 49 African states, and they can be analyzed. We tried to use 6 different indicators all together to see which countries have the best climate for investment. Because foreign investment is considered crucial for economic development in Africa. That's why it is very important topic to cover. So Cameroon is one of those 49 countries, and we can analyze using this indicator what is the performance of this country. So the average assessment of Cameroon will be the 34th position out of 49 countries, depending on other 6 indicators. But with some indicators, Cameroon performs very well. With some others, not so well. But I would say its position is average. The economic potential of Cameroon is not used to fully, yes, because 34 is not really something which would meet ambitions of such countries as Cameroon. But please look at some details of the indicators. For example, the best assessed is the indicator of the competitiveness of growth. It has the 14th position out of 32 countries, so it is quite well. But with some other indicators like doing business, the economic freedom, even worse, it is one of the last countries, 44 out of 47 countries. So it means there is not really an economic freedom to do business. Also, it's not very impressive in the indicator of fragile states. 34 means it is close to the last country, the most failed state in the world. So the most fragile state is South Sudan, which is number 49. So 34 is rather close to these countries' fragile states than countries performing well. And also there is a special indicator for good governance countries. Also it was mentioned by Mr. Hans that it is also rather in the middle, not in the beginning. So the best position is here in the competitiveness of Cameroon. Yes, it has many products, many high-skilled labor. So the potential is there, but the governance should be challenged. Yeah. So altogether, if we take all together, it will be in the 34th position. Yes, we assumed that all these indicators are have the same weight. Yes, that's why we received this 34th position. Yes, and as I mentioned, it is really impressive that Cameroon has common currency with 5 other states. Actually, not 5 others, even more, because in West Africa also there is the CFA franc. CFA franc means Communauté Financière Africaine. So in Polish it would be Afrykańska Wspólnota Finansowa, franki. But the francs, the currency is the same, even the exchange rate is the same, 656 francs for 1 euro. So the exchange rate is the same for the CEMAC, which is in Central Africa, and Union économique et monétaire de l'Ouest africaine in West Africa. So Wspólnota Gospodarcza i Monetarna Afryki Zachodniej. So both, and also there is Comoros, which also uses this currency. So the currency is the same in West Africa and in Central Africa. Altogether is almost 20 countries. But the francs used in West, for example, someone from Côte d'Ivoire cannot come with these francs to Cameroon and pay because they are not compatible. So
Ale czy one oba są zabezpieczone przez bank francuski?
Jest, tak. Obie te waluty mają gwarancję Skarbu Państwa Francji.
I są coraz mniejszej wartości, nie?
To znaczy wartość nie. Wartość jest ustalona stała. And this is really a paradox, and it is not benefiting. It has benefits for African countries, but it has also great benefits for France. And but this is a really paradox because on the one hand, as I said, it's impressive that Cameroon and Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, they had currency many years, tens of years before Euro was established. Yes. Euro was established in 1999. It was made into force in 2002 as cash. We could pay with cash in 2002. But in Cameroon, franc CFA was already there in 1945. So many years before Euro. But the problem with this currency is that it is fixed. First, it was fixed to French franc, And then when French franc disappeared, euro became the legal payment source in France. So now it is pegged to euro, and it doesn't change. And it is not really good for economy of such countries as Cameroon, because it means that normally, for example, Poland, if export is increasing, if the economic strength is rising, then Polish zloty is become stronger currency. But nothing like that happens in Cameroon. If Cameroon performs well, if it can export their products even outside of CEMAC, it will not have any impact on the currency, because the currency is fixed to euro. So what is happening with the currency of Cameroon, it depends on what is happening thousands of kilometers north in European Union. If European Union is in the crisis, then the currency of Cameroon will be weak. If the European Union is rising, it will be stronger. So this is the main problem. So now I would like to mention benefits for France and benefits for African countries. Let me start with African countries. Of course, the benefits are there. The same benefits as we have in Eurozone. Yes, the main benefit of having one currency is that companies from one country, they can export their products to another member state without the risk, currency risk. And if there is no currency risk, then also the costs are lower, because if there is risk, the companies, especially small and medium companies, they need to insure their products against this currency risk. So if there is one to pay for special insurance or some special payments in order to defend against this risk. So this is the main advantage of having one currency. Another is it is easier Gabon from Chad to Central African Republic. They don't need to worry about the differences. Yes, they have the same currency. It also helps with the stability of countries. Analyze the from China or from France or from the Netherlands. If they look at not only in Cameroon as one country, but they look in CEMAC as the whole territory. So it is safer for investors to invest. It increases the stability. So of course I agree that there are some benefits for African countries, but I would say that France benefits much more than these countries. Especially this is very visible in West Africa. In Central Africa, people tend to be more maybe tolerate, maybe they are more calm, they can accept those issues. But there is a lot of aggression in West Africa. Not to mention, of course, the wars, the conflicts that had place recently in Niger, yes, Burkina Faso, Mali. Of course, it has also something to do with hatred, you can say, towards France. But also this monetary and economic community of Western African states, they decided to introduce a new currency, which they don't want franc to be a part of their countries, and they introduced ECO. So it is still in a process of introducing, but they don't want to be dependent on European Union or France. And as an economist, I can agree and I can understand their position. But some of the opinions of the economists from West Africa, from experts, are really very tough. They even tend to say that this situation is like neo-colonialism, to have to be dependent on France and European Union in general. It is like neo-colonialism, and some of the experts even call it as as currency nazism. Yes, so these are very strong words. Why? Because it can be used, the currency, both CFA franc in Central Africa and CFA franc in West Africa, they can be used by France as an instrument of exerting the impact on African politics, yes, on African states. So this is very dangerous. There is no country in the world that would like to be dependent on other countries. They would be independent, and they got independence. Cameroon got independence in 1960. Why should it be still dependent on France? Another thing is that this currency, which has a history in equatorial French Africa and West French Africa, so historically it allows France to control banking system in those countries. It is true that that this bank, the central bank, because if there is a currency union, there must be a national bank. Like in European Union, we have European Central Bank in France. But here, in this case, there is a bank which, up to 1973, was called Banque Centrale de l'Afrique équatoriale and Cameroon. So the central bank of Equatorial Africa and Cameroon. And in 1973 changed its name to BEAC, Banque des États de l'Afrique Centrale. So the Bank of Africa, Central African States. But not only the name changed of the bank, but also something happened which we can call Africanization of administration, because more Africans could be employed in those organs of this bank. Before, mostly French were working for this bank. And can you imagine that the headquarters of the Central Bank of Africa was not in Yaoundé or in N'Djamena, but it was in Paris. So the headquarters were moved to Cameroon in 1973, which we can consider as something positive. And this is the headquarters. This is the headquarters of the Central Bank of Central Africa in Yaoundé. Yes, these are the benefits that France gains. And in the past, it was very dramatic. For example, in 1994, France was able to change the exchange rate to make the devaluation of its currency, devaluation, France. And by 50%, what does it mean? If you make a devaluation of currency by 50%, it means that those people who possess some capital, for one night, they lose half of their capital. And it was reported that in Côte d'Ivoire, in West Africa, which also used the CFA franc, people even used to commit suicides because of losing the capital of their life. So it is really very unprofitable for African states to have this currency. The common currency is good, but it's better that they have their own central bank, which is independent, and it's not fixed to a euro. It's independent. Here we have another section of this BEAC bank. It is in Garła, if I'm not mistaken. Even Polish central bank, yes. Narodowy Bank Polski also, it has different sections all over Poland, in Lublin, yes. So the same with this bank. It has agencies all over Cameroon, but also outside Cameroon in other member states like Chad and so on. So here are some facts about trade, intra-regional trade, which can also help us to understand if Cameroon is using this potential, geographical potential, economic potential to its full power. So if we look at the international export, it is true that Cameroon is number one. Yes, it exported $313 million to other 5 member states of CEMAC. Yes, the second country is Angola. Angola, so I'm analyzing here not CEMAC, but I'm analyzing here ECAS, which has 11 states, including Angola. So, Economic Community of Central African States. But in the past, also there were some other countries that were surpassing Cameroon when it comes to international export. But if we look at intra-regional import, so the destinations from where Cameroon imports products, we can see that Cameroon is not in top. Yes, Congo DRC imports 222 million, Republic of Congo, Chad, Central African Republic, and Gabon. All of them, they import more from Central African states than Cameroon. As I mentioned, among trade partners of Cameroon, the most important trade partners of Cameroon, there is no Central African states. The most important partners are China, Netherlands, and France, so countries from outside. We have, before our conference, we have discussed what is the reason Central African states is similar. Yes, so it's difficult to export products from Cameroon to Gabon or to Equatorial Guinea, for example. It's difficult to export oil from Cameroon to Equatorial Guinea because Equatorial Guinea already has a lot of oil. Yes, so what needs to be done is to specialize in some products, to add value, and then it can help to boost the international trade. And as I mentioned, foreign direct investment can be also a motor of development. And we can see that through years it seems to be stable, but in recent years, of course, there were some ups and downs, but in recent years there is hope that it can grow. But as I mentioned, also the investment climate needs to improve. Yes, governance needs to improve to attract foreign investments. Yes, and a lot was said about conflicts. So I can just repeat that, of course, in such problems like the tension or the war between the civil war, let's say, between Anglophone part of Cameroon and Francophone part of Cameroon. Francophone has economic impact on the country, on its economy, not only on the country, but on the whole CEMAC region. When we say Anglophone part, we mean only 10% of the area of Cameroon. It is close to Nigeria, it is called Southwest region, and it is due to historical, yes, when there was decolonization, this part decided they had choice either to join Nigeria or, because it's bordering with Nigeria, or join Francophone part. So they decided to form Cameroon, and 90% of the country is French-speaking part, but because there are two parts, we say that Cameroon is bilingual. Of course, there are many more languages, like 250 languages, but these are, it is difficult even from a citizen from one village cannot communicate in the local language with the citizen of another or neighboring village because the languages are very different. There is a great cultural wealth, we can say, of Cameroon because of different traditions, different cultures, different languages. But this is one maybe of the few positive consequences of colonialism, that French and English can help people to communicate together. Although in the North Cameroon, there is one language that can be used in the whole north or extreme north part. It is called, yes, Fulfulde, yes. So,
they come from Gay.
sorry?
You said they come from Gay.
Yes, also. But with this Fulfulde, it is like lingua franca, that people can communicate in the big area. Although they have their own languages, local languages, but still they can talk in Fulfulde. And it would be great if the government agrees, for example, to make it as a third official language. Yes, why do I say that it has economic implications? Migrations were mentioned, yes? People from Anglophone part, they migrate. So the social status of people decreases. This is one. Second thing, it requires some resources to form refugee camps, not only in Cameroon, but also in neighboring countries of SEMA. And even people are refugees from other countries and they find themselves in Cameroon. So migrations, there is a very big area that could be another topic of another paper. What is the impact of migrations on the economy of Cameroon and SEMA? Yes. And prospects for the future, maybe I would like to mention because of the limitation of time, maybe let me mention about two. There is a well-developed wood sector in Cameroon. There is a lot of wood being exported to Europe, but also to China. And in the past, at the time when I was visiting Cameroon, I could observe a lot of trucks exporting woods from north to Douala, and this wood was being transported to China. Yes, and from China they got the metal pipes to build this pipeline from Chad to Cameroon, or from Cameroon to Chad. Yes. So now, fortunately, the sector is developing. There is added value. So processing wood is very positive aspect of economy, and I can see that it makes the prospect for the future good. If something is developed, if the Cameroonians don't sell raw wood, but rather they process and then they sell, also the price can be higher. But another thing is for the future I would like to mention is yes, the renewable energy sector. Yes, it is becoming more and more possible in Cameroon to use this renewable energy, like the solar panels or the water plants. This is especially very good and important beneficiary because in Cameroon, as in many other places in Africa, there are problems with the supply of energy. So there are power cuts. I could experience it in Tanzania, but also there is not every place, even if there is electricity, but there are power cuts, and it also has